SGT Voices.
The beginning of the podcast can just be us chewing.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be good.
Good chocolate.
Good
Thank you.
chocolate.
Okay, let's begin.
From Shattered Globe Theater Voices, I'm Chessa Green. For the past 9 weeks, I've been working on a coffee farm on the big island of Hawaii. I've been picking coffee cherries, cutting down trees, and spreading mulch. A lot of mulch. To put in the simplest of terms, it's been dirty, strenuous, taxing work, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world right now. And that's not because I've suddenly found my calling to be a farm girl. It's because I've gotten to meet the man behind the farm.
I'm Matias Lopez Vega.
Matias is in his mid-40s with sunburnt brown skin and short black hair that's starting to salt and pepper at the top. He has an angular, kind face and an accent no one is ever able to place. His house sits quaintly upon the 4 acres he has owned and nurtured for the past 9 years on Hawaii. The love he has for this place is evident in both himself and his coffee.
Coffee was already a crop that has quite a bit of history here on the island. And I thought of it as such a noble plant. It's not that it's easier than growing, let's say, food crops, but there's definitely craftsmanship involved in coffee. What you put into it and how smart you put into it reflects in the final product. I mean, you can grow a beautiful tomato and a beautiful lettuce, but pretty much the flavor, it's pretty standardized. Coffee's not like that. Coffee is, it's sort of an art form.
In the first 15 minutes of meeting Matias, you can tell that he's already lived many exciting lives, and that he's open to living even more. He exudes calmness, but is always down for a laugh and a good fart joke. Safe to say, we became fast friends. But the craziest part about me meeting Matias isn't that he's just a good person. It is that I see so much of myself in him. So many of the conflicts I have within myself, so many of the questions I want answered about my own life, are the same questions Matias has been searching for and working towards in his.
Well, short story, I was 17, migrated to the States, went to college, graduated, became an engineer, was an engineer for 8.5 years. And even though I still love engineering and I've always been attracted to the creative aspect of engineering, the corporate world or lifestyle was something that I couldn't get used to. Maybe because I'm more of a free-spirited, creative, independent type of person, and corporations tend to stifle that. There was a big emphasis in my family that once you get your degree, life starts, right? You got to get that and then start working and all that. And I finally got there, and I was like, is this it? Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to come with a bag of goodies that, fun all over the place.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I think this idea that life starts once you get your degree is a very common one. I felt it just as Matias did. We have been told from such a young age that we are our work. That is how we know to determine our success in life. I, for one, believe this and am only now starting to realize that this structure may not be as sound as I want it to be.
I thought through a vocation or a profession I was going to get, because in general, that seems to be what they try to teach you, right? Growing up, at least in the West, that what you do is what will define you and your life.
Right.
And I'm not too sure about that.
I think this is one of the main reasons the pandemic was so challenging and uprooting for so many people, including myself. If we're not allowed to work because we can't leave our house, or we can't work because our vocation has been taken away, if we measure ourselves by our work, paycheck, product, or even the art we make, then who are we and what are we left with when it's taken away? This has been a hard realization for me to come to. 1, because I quickly realized after graduating I didn't enjoy the lifestyle that traditionally comes with theater, and 2, because for a long time I thought my theater was going to change the world. I do feel a little silly saying that out loud right now, but it is the truth.
I mean, maybe because I grew up with big expectations that my impact in society was going to be noticeable. And so you know, when you're a kid, you think you're going to be an astronaut or you know, the biggest fire, you know, fireman and you know, ever. You got this big movies playing in your mind. And then, you know, as you grow older, you realize you're just one little, you know, another brick. But I think a lot of it has to do with the expectations you had about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the background you come from and all that. Because some other people would be perfectly content with that. They think that they're functional to humanity, that they are contributing with their little grain of sand. But for me, it wasn't enough. And then when I realized that I would never, no matter, even if I was a Nobel Prize, would, you know, aside from, you know, being known and fame and all that, that really eventually I would come and go.
These ideas have been percolating in my mind for years now, but no one else seemed to share them, so I ignored them. Until the pandemic. Once the pandemic hit, I felt like everyone was asking these same things. For the first time, I felt like we were all on the same page. The page of not knowing what the hell to do with our lives.
I came to another realization, which is there's no human being in the world that makes such a big impact. Even the historical figures and all that, that's mostly stories. Because let's say, who's the most famous person in history?
What's so funny is like I've literally had this exact same conversation, and this is like my greatest fear, and is one of the catalysts for this actual interview. Right. Is that my whole greatest fear that I'm very slowly like trying to break apart is that I will have no impact. The pandemic humbled me. It helped me understand how small I was, how I needed to put my impact in perspective, and it gave me time and space to say, okay, if I'm going to die of a killer disease, how do I actually want to live my life, and how can I understand these bigger questions for myself?
It was a realization that turned my focus into getting approval or validation from the outside world to being like, you know, more inward, more of an inner desire to learn about myself and see myself in different situations. And being in that company or in that model
wasn't going to
kind of stifles that.
Yeah.
No matter what I do, I will be a little bit dissatisfied because it's the nature of the material world. I started focusing more in trying to learn who I am. And what I'm made of, what my beliefs are and where they came from, if there is actually universal truth, if there's not. And because of that, I sought out working or owning land and trying to make something out of land.
So let's pause for a moment. Doesn't it seem like I'm in the right place? Here I am, deconstructing my fears around what I want to do with my life, what the purpose of it is, and how do I measure my success within it, and Matthias just falls into my lap. Now, maybe you're listening to this and thinking, dude, this is depressing. You're telling me nothing I do is significant, and we're all just another brick in the wall? I know. I feel that way sometimes too. But there's another feeling that comes to me as well. A sense of relief. I'm putting less stress and judgment on myself, and in turn, I'm caring less how others may perceive my successes. Of course, none of these things come without sacrifice. Okay, so with the previous job, you know, you had monetary compensation
yeah.
And you had security in this way, and you had a firm traditional trajectory for life, let's say.
Right. A status,
yeah. And there's pros and cons to that.
Right.
Obviously, that did not weigh enough, like all those things did not weigh enough for you.
Correct.
So you changed.
Correct.
With the farm and things, the farm takes a lot from you as well. You have to make a lot of sacrifices for the farm as well.
More than before, way more.
Really? Like what?
Yeah. Well, I'm involved in every aspect, so it demands everything from me.
Was running the farm what you thought it would be? Were your expectations around running the farm
No,
correct or completely or different?
I had a very romantic idea. Because you watch movies and this, and there's always the farmer all happy and looking at the sunset and the beautiful bounty, of produce or the happy cow, the happy, sheep and all that.
I've never seen this. Where's this idea? I've never seen this idea.
Well, maybe it's more of a Hollywood thing.
Maybe.
But,
I picture him in like a field and like a car goes past and he like waves.
Right.
He like gives a heads up with his cowboy hat on his tractor. Yeah.
Right.
Watching the sunset.
But then you realize, that you have dirt on you most of the time. You step on animals' craps. Sometimes, especially here in Hawaii, you gotta work in the rain.
In the rain.
And yeah. But it jives with my nature. I'm not too worried about, tidiness and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It seems unfair, doesn't it? That we as individuals have to choose so often between doing something we love and doing something to financially survive. I often lie awake wishing I was an accountant and loved crunching numbers, or a doctor who wouldn't mind attending 12 years of medical school. Artists know all too well what doing what you love often does not equate in monetary value.
The only thing that's going to stop me is my vitality and my body.
Yeah.
The more it starts breaking down, the harder it will be for me to keep up, because it takes a lot of life out of you.
It takes a lot of physical, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things it definitely probably takes. But that still doesn't outweigh it though.
No, it doesn't. I like it. To the point that not too long ago, I was having this conversation with a woofer, and I told her that probably now I'm making a third of the money that I was making more than a decade ago as an engineer. And I told her that even if they came back from my job and they offered me 5 times, not 5 times, I said like 3 times what I used to make.
Yeah.
And they gave me a car,
yeah,
latest model, and a place to live and all that, I would still decline it and keep doing this.
Yeah, that's how much you like it.
Yeah, or that's how much I dislike the
yeah,
other
that's
life.
True. That's how much you dislike that.
I came to learn that in life, if you want to, whatever you do, you're going to have to work hard. Nothing's going to be out there that it will be like, oh, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
You'll have to work hard. The only difference is working hard for something you enjoy or working hard for something you don't.
When I look at Matthias, I see someone who has lived his life awake and with great intention. I see someone who is open and genuine with their space, time, and self, not because he feels like he should, but because he knows enough of himself to share those things openly with others. I see someone who has accomplished many things because of who he has become in his life. When I tell him this, I am taken aback and reminded of how much I still have to learn.
I don't think I have accomplished much. The events or the so-called accomplishments by social standards, getting a degree or traveling around the world, to me those are not accomplishments. Those are steps that add to your experience of life. I don't see it as an accomplishment. I mean, yeah, it would, maybe smaller ones. For instance, getting into meditation and allowing to control more my impulses. And that's an accomplishment. But that probably has to do more, not with external, quantifiable accomplishments, but more like a quality of life type of accomplishment. That's probably a big one. Everything else, I see it as transitions and phases and processes that you got to go through in order to keep learning and growing, right?
So, if that's the case, do you not think there is any such thing as accomplishment then?
I think so.
Because it's just
Right. The only accomplishment is reducing your dissatisfaction or your suffering in all its different degrees, and being more content with life.
I didn't start this project thinking I was going to talk about stuff like this. I thought maybe I'd talk about my new exciting life in Hawaii, what it's like working on a coffee farm. Nothing too existential or anything. But I guess this is what Hawaii has been for me so far. It's been meeting Matthias and attempting to understand myself in these new and challenging ways. I'm gonna keep working on that being content thing. I think it could do me some good.
Want to learn more about Matthias and his coffee farm? Visit waipunacoffee.com. That's WAIPUNA coffee.com.
Thanks for listening, and until next time.
SGT Voices was created in response to the COVID-related closures that have disproportionately impacted the arts and artists, as well as the rising importance of centering voices of BIPOC artists. The series seeks to provide a virtual platform with logistical and financial support to Shattered Globe Ensemble members and our affiliate artists. SGT Voices delivers a channel through which Shattered Globe can continue to engage, entertain, and challenge our audiences, even from a distance. Your support for this programming is welcomed and deeply appreciated.